If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My son said I wouldn't even reach 500 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. I spent 45 years learning procedure, rules of evidence, standards of review, how to file, how to object, how to argue precedent in rooms with terrible lighting. I got very good at it, but the law is not the game. The game is what happens before anyone calls a lawyer. The game is played in living rooms, in parked cars, over dinner tables where no one is recording, in text messages that seem casual, in hallways after the kids go to bed. The law arrives after the game is already decided. I have seen thousands of people lose, not because they broke rules, because they never understood which rules mattered. They thought fairness was built in. They thought documentation was paranoid. They thought good faith was mutual. It isn't. A man signs a partnership agreement at a kitchen table. His brother wrote it. He doesn't read past page 2. 15 years later, that document decides who keeps the business, who keeps the building, who gets bought out at a number chosen by someone else. He calls me when it's over. A woman lets her name come off the deed. Simplifies the refinance, they said. Saves on taxes, they said. 10 years of payments. She has the canceled checks. But the house is not in her name. When it ends, the checks mean nothing. The deed is what matters. She didn't know. A couple keeps all their money in one account. His name. Easier that way. Joint bills, joint life. Why complicate it? Then he gets sick of her. Moves $18,000 on a Tuesday. Opens a new account she doesn't know about. Withdraws cash the same day she served. By the time she calls her, the money is offshore or spent or dispersed to relatives who suddenly needed loans. She thought the law would fix it. The law can't fix what it can't find. Nobody teaches you this. Not in school. Not at work. Not from your parents, who probably didn't know either. You think marriage is about love. It's also a contract with your signature on it and terms you never reviewed. You think a job is about contribution. It's also an at-will agreement with an arbitration clause that sends disputes to a panel chosen by your employer. You think your best friend who starts a company with you will stay your best friend. That never survives the first disagreement about equity. I used to think people were careless. Now I think they just believe the world is smaller than it is. They believe proximity equals transparency, that working together means aligned interests, that years of history create obligation. None of that is true in a legal sense. What's true is what's written, what's dated, what's signed, what's filed. I once spent 6 weeks on a case where a man paid his father's medical bills, $60,000. He thought it was understood he'd be paid back from the estate. Nothing was written, no promissory note, no emails confirming the arrangement. His sister inherited everything. She said the payments were gifts. I told him we had no case. He showed me birthday cards from his father thanking him, mentions of gratitude. I told him gratitude is not a contract. He cried in my office, not because of the money, because he realized his father never intended to protect him. That's the part that breaks people, not the loss. The realization that someone they trusted saw the gap and didn't close it. I see this with married couples more than I should. One partner manages all the finances, pays the bills, handles the investments. The other one doesn't ask, doesn't check, doesn't want to seem suspicious. Then it ends, and the one who trusted has no idea what account exists, what the passwords are, what was sold last year, what was moved. I have sat across from people who cannot list their own assets. They know the name of the bank. They think there's a retirement account somewhere. They're not sure what the house appraised for. Their spouse knows everything. That imbalance is the entire case. People also stay silent too long. A business partner starts taking distributions that don't match ownership. You notice. You don't say anything. You don't want to seem accusatory. 6 months later, it's worse. You still don't say anything. 3 years later, you hire me. I tell you the delay is evidence of consent. You agreed by doing nothing. That's not how it feels to you, but that's how it reads. Silence gets interpreted. Not asking becomes permission. Waiting becomes acceptance. The law doesn't care what you thought in private. I had a case once. A woman signed a deed transferring property to her son. He told her it was for estate planning. Avoid probate. Save on taxes. Standard stuff. She signed. Her son sold the property 4 months later. Kept the money. Stopped returning her calls. She hired me to reverse the transfer, but the deed was notarized. She was competent. There was no evidence of coercion. She thought he would never do that. The law doesn't protect you from being wrong about someone. I also made a mistake. 30 years ago, I had a chance to buy into a firm. 3 partners offered me equity. I was young. The terms seemed complicated. I wanted to think about it. I never followed up. They didn't ask again. 10 years later, the firm sold for 8 figures. I was still on salary. I could have asked for clarity. I could have hired someone to review the offer. I could have just said yes and adjusted later. I did nothing. I tell you this because I also thought time was neutral, that opportunities repeat, that silence is safe. It's not. The game rewards people who act early, who document everything, who don't assume. People who read the entire contract, even when it's boring, who send follow-up emails confirming verbal conversations, who keep separate accounts even when it feels unromantic, who record the loan even if it's family, who don't wait for fairness to appear on its own. I spent 40 years cleaning up after people who thought good intentions were enough. They weren't lying. They weren't stupid. They just didn't know the gap between what they thought was happening and what could be proven. That gap is where everything is lost. A man lends his cousin $30,000. No paperwork. Just trust. The cousin dies 2 years later. The estate has no record of the loan. The man calls me. I tell him without documentation there's nothing. He says they were family. I tell him the estate doesn't care. A woman works for 15 years building her husband's company. She's not on payroll. She doesn't take a title. She manages operations while he does sales. They divorce. He claims she was never an employee. She has no employment records, no pay stubs, no equity agreement. She walks away with nothing from the business. She thought partnership was obvious. The law requires proof. I have had people sit across from me and describe entire lives built on assumptions that were never confirmed, never tested, never written down, never questioned. And when the relationship ends, they realize they have nothing enforceable. Just stories. The law doesn't hear stories. It reads documents. And if the documents don't exist or don't say what you thought they said, you lose. Not because you were wrong about what happened, because you can't prove it. This is what I mean when I say I learned the law instead of the game. I learned how to argue, how to cite precedent, how to draft motions. But I didn't learn how to tell someone in their 30s that the thing they're not doing right now will destroy them in their 50s. That's not law. That's something else. By the time someone comes to me, the choices have already been made. I can't undo a signature. I can't create a document that never existed. I can't make someone credible who waited years to speak up. I can file. I can argue. I can negotiate. But the outcome was determined long before they walked into my office. People think trials are where the case is decided. Trials are just a cleanup. The game was already over. They just didn't know it yet.